Good morning. That's my favorite part, y'all. First, I want to share a stellar reminder we received in the suggestion box that everyone please wear their name tags. Thank you in advance for helping visitors, regulars, and members alike identify each other. All right. Coming up on Saturday, April 11th from 6 to 8 p.m., Membership Fellowship Committee is bringing back game night. So if you like board games, snacks, and fun-filled rivalry, be sure to mark your calendars. Then on Sunday, April 26th, I'm very pleased to announce Super New Member Sunday. That's right. We're bringing back Super Sunday and we're combining it with New Member Sunday. We'll be welcoming at least 5 new members, wonderful people, into our congregation, and then we'll celebrate with soups, hot dogs, and cake. So for those of you who like to make soup, please bring some to share that day and be prepared to take home leftovers. Thank you. Also, if anyone is interested in becoming a member and joining those 5 who will be celebrating that day, there is still time to fulfill the requirements for membership. One of those is to attend either a chat with the minister or to attend a New to UU class. And the next New to UU class is coming up on April 1st from 6:30 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. And to sign up for that, you can contact the office. Their number is 207-947-7009, or you can email uubangor@gmail.com. Okay, I think that's everything from me.
Okay, wait a minute. For some reason, there's a difference in height variance here. I am prepared to give you folks a financial update. UUSB is 3/4 through our fiscal year. Quarterly pledge statements will go out in early April. In February, our expenses exceeded our income. So if you are one of many members and friends who are a bit behind, please try to get caught up before June 30. If you don't think you'll be able to fulfill your commitment for this current fiscal year, please contact Kate Dutra. Kate, would you raise your hand? That's Kate. She's our collector. She's the keeper of all information pledge money. For the pledge drive, which we hope we'll be able to conclude at the end of this month with the variety show, that's our big celebration, we are just about $100,000 shy of our goal. I know, a little scary, isn't it? We need to know our pledge total in order to adjust our draft budget that the congregation will vote on at the annual meeting in May, and there will be a budget hearing in April once we know what the final pledge total is. So I have pledge forms right down here on the table. So if you haven't done a pledge yet, and only 28 households have, please take one, fill it out. You can also email Kayla, who is the pledge chair. She wanted to be here today but couldn't. And you can put it in either the plate, or you can give it to Kayla next Sunday, or me if she's not here. I also want to talk a little bit about the auction that's coming up on April 4th at 7 o'clock on Zoom. That's a Saturday. It's the Saturday before Easter, so hopefully everybody will be home and online for the auction. I have an updated list with descriptions also down here by the pledge forms. I only printed 7 because it is online, and online it's all pretty. It's Lori Cartier's slides, and they look great. So if you can look online and read them, that's great. If you need to take one, please do. I can bring more back next week if we run out. So I think we're ready for anybody who might be new that would like to introduce themselves. Do we have anybody that fits that category? I guess not. Okay. Then the introit.
Lighting our Unitarian Universalist chalice this morning is Chris Churak and daughter Franny. Thank you. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Today, we're also going to light our lotus candle for the people of Iran who are suffering an onslaught of violence and chaos due to the of our country's administration. May it ignite the sacred power of justice and that the war may end. Thank you to Chris and Franny. And now rise as you are willing or able for our opening hymn, number 1021. I think we all know it, Lean on Me. Now it's time for all ages. We invite those of you young or young at heart to come down to the rug, and Sue is going to share a photo history of Bangor during General Hersey's life. If you don't know who General Hersey is, you'll find out soon.
Anybody that wants to be able to see the screen better, come on down, come on down. When I put this together, it wasn't meant for this Sunday. So I was expecting more kids. So this is the kid-friendly version of what we're going to do a little bit later. Okay, so what you see here is General Hersey's portraits from when he was a younger man and when he got older. And as you'll learn in a little bit about General Hersey, he was a member of this congregation back in the 1800s. Okay, next slide, please. So, because this was for kiddos, I brought in some Bangor history. That is one of the first fire trucks in Bangor. And you'll notice the horse-drawn carriage, that is on Broadway. Next slide, please. That is a steam engine that was running just about the time that he was alive. I thought that was a very cool picture as well. Next slide. So, back in the day, when they were cutting trees up north, they would send them down the rivers. And that is what it would look like. And they would get all jammed up, and in the next picture or two, you're going to see how they unjammed them. These guys were called river drivers. And they would get on those logs, and they had a thing called a peavey, which is kind of this weird little stick thing that they're using. And they would separate those logs so the log jam would release and the logs could flow downstream. Next slide, please. Now, if you've been by the Bangor Public Library or you've been to any of the rallies in the park, this is Pierce Park, which is right over there, and that is a statue depicting those river drivers. So next time you're in that park, go up and really look at it, because you can see the tools that they used to break up those log jams. So when the log jams were broken up, sometimes the logs didn't want to flow downstream by themselves. So they would bind them all together, and they would take a tugboat, and they would pull them downstream to the various sawmills. There were 150, approximately 150 sawmills right on the Penobscot River near Bangor. This is West Market Square. Is that cool or what? Now, our church would be up here. It's almost impossible to see, but it'll be over in that corner. You'll notice there's a horse and buggy because there were no cars back then. Next slide. This, at the time, was an orphanage. And General Hersey was instrumental in not only paying to have that built, but as you'll hear, because you're all going to stay in here, he also dedicated it at the time it first opened. So that's what it looked like then. Next slide. This is what it looks like now. That Gigi goes to school there. That's Hilltop Daycare. And you'll notice it hasn't changed a whole lot, except now you've got cars and telephone poles. Next slide. This is what the Bangor House looked like. Now, you will notice, again, you've got carriages and horses, and things were delivered by carriage and by horse. And that was the Bangor House then. This is the Bangor House today. And you'll notice we've got cars, not horses, and we've got street lights. They didn't need street lights. Well, maybe they needed them, but they couldn't have them back then. Okay, next slide. And where is this? This is us. Now, this is us back before the fire of 1911. This was taken when there was actually a park on Park Street. Did you ever wonder why this was called Park Street? There was a park. They built that building that is now used for City Hall. They built that after the fire of 1911 because it was a post office and they needed the post office. But you'll notice we had, go back one more, please. Back, there we go, thank you. You'll notice that we had spires. And you'll notice that we had a clock And there's more that you'll learn about the clock when I make my remarks later on. But that's what it looked like. You'll notice again, you've got the horses and you've got people walking, so it's a beautiful winter day. And next slide, please. This is a portrait of Sarah Neptune. Now, many of you have probably heard of Molly Molasses. The YW used to have a camp that they named Molly Molasses. Molly was very famous and lived on the reservation, which is Indian Island. This is her daughter, Sarah, and I put Sarah in here because Sarah lived during the time of General Hersey. Next slide. This is where General Hersey is buried. That is the crypt that is in Mount Hope Cemetery. I did not take that yesterday, Bob, obviously. I took that many years ago, and I was looking through my pictures, and there it was. I thought someday I might want to use that picture. So his family is buried there, and I'll get into his family background in a bit. But so next time you take a walk through Mount Hope Cemetery, take a look, see if you could find it. Okay, I think that's it, right, Glenn? Okay, thank you. We'll sing you back to your seats. I light one last candle for everyone who has not chosen to come up, but has deep feelings within that they just want to keep within. And also for people who do not have a congregation like ours in which to share. Blessed be.
As Rosemary very rightly pointed out, and as we had submitted to Christine, but it wasn't updated in the program, this month we will be sharing the undesignated plate offerings, half of them, with an organization that works toward our UU values, as we do every month. And this month, it is going to MUSUN, the main UU State Advocacy Network, a statewide advocacy and public policy network anchored in our UU faith and animated by its principles. This legislative ministry links Maine's 22 UU congregations to promote just, humane laws and policies. thank you for your commitment and your generosity. For when we give, we say yes to something we value, and in this case, it is our beloved community. Blessed be. Honoring Our Ancestors by Elandria Williams. The history and legacy of Unitarian Universalism are shaped by the ancestors in our congregations. I came as a fourth grader to my congregation, the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee, TVUUC. That community helped bring me into social justice struggles in the world around me and inside the UUA. My church opened so many doors because they held young people in high esteem and encouraged our leadership in the church and community. My religious education teachers, friends' parents, and spirit aunts and uncles were and still are community leaders in everything from nuclear disarmament to anti-racism and anti-oppression issues. They have been my inspiration as I work to support others who are called by their faith to change hearts, minds, and communities. My church changed forever on July 27, 2008, when an armed man came into the sanctuary and killed 2 UU leaders, one a member of TVUUC and the other a member of Westside Church. This rocked our church to its core. When I first heard about it, I didn't know who had been killed. My mom, my friends, and their parents, or others who had nurtured me my entire life. I realized something that day that has stayed with me ever since. No matter what issues I have with other Unitarian Universalists regarding our visions of God or spirit, justice, race, and age, at the root of everything is community, love, and faith. That day, something larger than our individual beliefs rose up in my mind. I thought of the principles, values, and family that are the connective tissue of our faith community and that held us weeks after the shooting, 6 months later on our 60th anniversary, and still today. We are part of the connective tissue that holds the legacy and future of our faith. We are the children of freedom fighters, visionaries, and radical liberal theologians. We are the phoenix rising out of the ashes of the McCarthy era and the civil rights, women's, and queer liberation movements. We are the survivors and beneficiaries of youth-led and youth-focused beliefs and programming that encouraged us to be change makers, boundary pushers, and institutionalists at the same time. We are and will be the ministers, religious educators, congregational presidents, organizers, and social change leaders our faith has led us to be. We wear our faith as tattoos on our bodies and in our hearts as testaments to the blood, tears, dreams, and inspirations of our community ancestors and elders. And now some special music from Sojourner.
Thank you, Sojourner. Appreciate that wonderful music. Okay, so now more about Samuel F. Hersey. For many of you new to this congregation, especially those without children in our SEE, Spiritual Exploration Experience program, the name Samuel F. Hersey may not be familiar. For those longtime members and those history buffs of Bangor, Samuel F. Hersey was also referred to as General Hersey, and he holds a place of high honor throughout the city. I really enjoy putting together reflections from an historical perspective. Today's reflection focuses on General Hersey and tidbits of history of Bangor during his lifetime. Samuel Hersey was a beloved member of this congregation around 150 years ago. I want to preface my remarks by expressing a land acknowledgement for reasons that will become clear in short order. Our church resides on unceded land of the Wabanaki people who loved and cared for this land for hundreds of years before Europeans and other explorers landed on our shores. In the book entitled The Story of Bangor, compiled by Bookmarks Publishing in 1999, quote, prior to contact with the Europeans, the Penobscot tribal nation may have numbered as many as 10,000. The authors go on to explain by 1800, the tribe numbered no more than 200 and retreated to the island now known as Indian Island in the Penobscot River by Old Town and is owned by the Penobscot Nation. This sad historical fact is important because Samuel Hersey was a lumber baron. He became a very, very wealthy man, perhaps the most wealthy in the entire state at that time, from harvesting forested land throughout Maine as well as in the Midwest, primarily in Michigan and Wisconsin. I will share with you some of what I've learned about this benefactor of our congregation. I also had a handout put with your orders of service this morning that was put together in 2006 by our own Mark McCullough. Mark, where are you? There is Mark, along with the late Carolyn Kennard Ziffer, who was our historian at the time, and the late Dorothy Hawks, who grew up in this church. Samuel was born in Sumner in April of 1812, when Maine was a district of Massachusetts. He came from revolutionary stock. His grandfathers both served in the War of Independence. Young Samuel was raised on a farm like many Mainers back in those days. While he attended school in the lower grades, as he grew older, school took a back seat to work on the family farm. He did eventually graduate from Hebron Academy in Western Maine and left the farm in 1832 with the intention of pursuing a career in the mercantile trade in Milford and Bangor. In 1820, Maine had achieved statehood, separating from Massachusetts. Upon entering the Union as a free state as part of the Missouri Compromise, Maine took possession of 8.5 million acres of public land, 90% of which was forested. His dream to go into the mercantile trade didn't last long, however, because one of his employers introduced him to the lumber business. Hersey could envision a bright future in lumber. While living in Milford, he met and married his first wife, Eliza Ann Stowell, in 1835, who passed away the following year from illness. His focus on lumber and the citizens of Maine took root during this time. He married his second wife, Jane Ann Davis, in 1839, with whom he had a daughter who died at the tender age of 3 and had 4 surviving sons. People have asked why Samuel Hersey is referred to as General Hersey. Around 1839, there was a military and civilian-involved confrontation between the U.S. and Great Britain over the boundary between Maine and Canada, commonly referred to as the Aroostook War. While the militia units were called up, The incident was resolved by treaty rather than force. Hersey served as a member of a militia unit from Bangor with the title Major General. By the 1830s, Bangor was on its way to earning its reputation as the lumber capital of the world. This part of the state was experiencing substantial growth and prosperity. By 1844, Bangor had 34 public schools, which included 2 high schools, one for boys, one for girls, and 2 apprentice schools for boys. An article in the Bangor Daily News on March 13, 2020, penned by Richard Shaw, a Bangor historian, addressed the flip side of this prosperity. To paraphrase Mr. Shaw, beyond the rosy stories of growth and prosperity lies another history, one of hard scrabble living, pollution, disease, prostitution, and harsh winters. One needs only pass by the town's graveyards to read the inscriptions of children who never made it past age 1. Here are some examples. In 1846, ice jams on the Penobscot formed up to 30 miles above Bangor. When they made their way towards the city, they took debris with them. Mass destruction resulted. West Market Square was flooded with water, ice, and debris up to 10 feet high and reached the second stories of many buildings. Pollution from timber in the river waters to smoke in the air to sewerage and harsh winters made the city even more susceptible to disease, which spread viciously through the 1840s and 1850s. A devastating cholera epidemic hit in the fall of 1849. Bangor was a magnet for men looking to work in the lumber industry. Many lumberjacks brought their families with them. Following the Great Potato Famine in Ireland in the 1840s, the Irish population grew so rapidly in Bangor that by the early 1850s, 1/4 of Bangor's population was Irish. They weren't the only immigrants. People from all over Europe came to settle here, including a group of German Jews. Hersey was a well-respected, extremely wealthy businessman. He owned vast amounts of forested acreage in Maine and expanded his timber holdings into the Midwest sections of the country. He knew that to be truly successful, one had to be connected to all aspects of the lumbering business. He and other wealthy lumber barons, such as Samuel Vesey, helped organize and served on as board members of local banks, insurance companies, and were materially involved in the expansion of railroads to the north. He was involved with dams along the river routes on which the logs floated downstream to the mills. At the time, sawmills dotted the banks of the Penobscot and other rivers. The lumber floated down on the waterways like you saw earlier. With men hopping, you could actually hop from one side of the river to the other just by hopping across the logs. River drivers, as they were called, and you saw in the pictures, were charged with keeping the logs flowing downstream. My own granddad from Cherryfield was a river driver who died of pneumonia while in his 30s from his work on the river. The Daily Mercury newspaper reported on March 31st, 1846, that the owners of lumber in the city of Bangor, which included General Hersey, they be a committee to take possession of all floating lumber of every description and lumber in dispute when different claimants on the Penobscot River and below Bangor to retain the same and deliver the same to persons in such proportions as shall be determined by the committee to determine the ownership to be chosen at these meetings. They spoke differently back then. a little hard to wrap my tongue around it. The sentence ran on to explain that the committee would be responsible for disposing of all lumber for which no owner could be found and divided up among the owners who suffered losses due to the late disastrous freshet. That is a term referring to a flood of a river by heavy rain or melted snow, like the one I mentioned earlier in 1846. The logs had each company's name on the log, so that's how they were able to determine whose log it belonged to. The Bangor Daily Whig and Courier reported on February 22, 1858, that Hersey and several other prominent businessmen asked the legislature to allow them to incorporate into a company for the purpose of building a railroad to Aroostook County from Old Town or Milford. Hersey was first elected to the Maine state legislature representing Milford in 1842, and for approximately 30 years after served in the state legislature after moving to Bangor. Over time, he became involved in politics at the national level, being first elected to the House of Representatives in Congress in 1872 and re-elected in 1874 until the time of his death in 1875. More about his national political involvement in just a bit. Samuel Hersey was a devoted member of this congregation. At the time, it was the First Universalist Society of Bangor. He loved the children in the Sunday school and even volunteered as a teacher in that program. His devotion to his faith was not reserved just for our congregation. On June 23, 1858, he was elected to the Maine Universalist Educational Society at their meeting in Waterville. I'll remind you that in 1820, Maine entered the Union as a free state, not allowing slavery. General Hersey was an abolitionist, and one of his friends was the Reverend Amory Battles, the beloved minister of this church in the 1850s when Hersey was an active member. Reverend Battles, according to AI, hosted a visit to Bangor by Frederick Douglass to speak against slavery. Battles refused to perform weddings until after the Emancipation Proclamation that sanctioned slavery. This congregation knew of his stand and was very supportive. Hersey would serve as a delegate to the National Republican Convention in Chicago in 1860 that nominated Abraham Lincoln as its candidate for President of the United States. Hersey's close friend, Hannibal Hamlin, was chosen by Lincoln as his running mate for his first term. Lumber continued to keep this part of Maine prosperous. As you saw in the pictures, the logs were tied together into huge rafts. The rafts then floated down to those 150 sawmills that lined the banks of the river. In 1860, this is for real, in 1860, Bangor shipped 250 million board feet of lumber on more than 200 ships a day that sailed down the Penobscot. Hersey used his personal wealth and prestige to provide funding to outfit the soldiers from Maine who served in the Civil War. Bangorians of many ethnic backgrounds, especially the Irish, were well represented in those Maine regiments, including the Bangor Cornet Band, which was later renamed the Bangor Band. He and his wife Jane were devoted to caring for the orphans and aged women who lived in Bangor following the deaths of their parents or spouses, many of whom succumbed to cholera and other diseases, as well as those who had lost their lives serving the Union. Hersey, a major benefactor of the Bangor Children's Home, presided over the opening of that new facility that you saw a picture of in 1869. They were also major benefactors of the Bangor Public Library in an age when very few libraries in this country were free to all. Bangor continued to prosper. In 1869, this kills me, prominent businessman Oliver Frost predicted, quote, "The time may soon arrive when the great cities of Bangor, New York, and San Francisco shall be representatives of the wealth, population, intelligence, and enterprise of the Eastern, Central, and Western divisions of the country. Fun fact, before Standard Time was required by Maine law in 1887, the U.S. had over 500 time zones. Churches like ours, with clocks in the towers, displayed the time on this side of the Kentucky stream, and churches on the west side of town had their own time. Once the railroads required that time be standardized for their scheduling, this church and the Hammond Street Congregational Church were the first two churches to reset their clocks to this new standard time schedule. Hersey's will provided legacy funding to the city of Bangor in an amount of $100,000, with an equivalent value of over $3 million in today's values. During his lifetime, Hersey financially supported this congregation, an example of which were summer excursions for the children of the Sunday school. In his will, money was directed to build a summer retreat entitled Hersey Retreat, and it was constructed in Stockton Springs and specified our Sunday school children would enjoy time there in the summer. Children from the Bangor Children's Home were also able to enjoy time at Hersey Retreat. That endowment in his name continues to provide scholarship opportunities to youth in our current spiritual exploration program. Hersey left a legacy that will continue to fund Bangor's first free public library, and funds from his trust were used to build a new city hall, which was on the corner of Hammond and Columbia Streets, which was named Hersey Memorial Hall. It's now a parking deck, but that's progress, right? The building was taken down in the 1960s as a part of Bangor's urban renewal program. The Hersey bust that you have seen in pictures, and it's on the cover of the brochure. Was it in the pictures? Did you see it in the pictures, the bust? I don't think it didn't make it in there. Okay, that's a story I'll tell you very quickly. For several months, a decade or so ago, that bust, which was part of the city hall, it sat on the outside so Hersey could look over his city. That bust was in here, in our sanctuary, right over there for several months, and then it was moved out to the Dorothy Memorial because Jerry Palmer, who was a city council person, attended church here, and he brought the bust over one day. Big thing. When I went to find it to take a picture of it, I found it locked in a storeroom covered with dust. Kind of disappointing. Hersey provided through his will funding for many of his favorite charities. General Samuel Freeman Hersey lived his faith, and this congregation continues to benefit from his generosity with every passing year. Blessed be. There you go. Yep. Yes, go ahead.
Honoring Church Ancestors by Alice Anacheka Naisman. Let us take a moment to honor the ancestors of this church, the people who first came together to create a home for liberal religion here in Bangor, who worked to raise money for a building, who sat in committee meetings and created bylaws, who chopped and marinated and baked for potlucks, who painted and weeded and pounded nails and washed countless dishes, who gathered to worship, to learn, to grieve, to heal, to serve, to build justice, to transform their lives and this world. We are the recipients of an incredible gift and a beautiful vision. Let us do our part to keep this congregation strong, vital, and thriving for the generations to come. Now please rise again as you are willing and able for our closing hymn, number 1028. We extinguish this chalice flame, daring to carry forward the vision of this free faith that freedom, reason, and justice will one day prevail in this nation and across the earth. And now, our benediction. So if you're willing and able, you can stand up, join hands.